Did you know that communication styles correlate with genders and culture? This topic seems interesting and never have an ending, especially in a workplace. Sometimes there will be misunderstanding when misperceptions occurs. But before we continue our discussion, allow us to introduce ourselves. My name is Putu Widya Rahayu Putri as the first speaker, continued by Christopher Sitomorang as the second speaker, and Stephanie Subianto as the third speaker. In this slide, we can see the table of content what we are going to present. The first is introduction about the company in the case, continued by question 1, 2, 3, and the last is conclusion. First is about Boston Consulting Group. Based on Wikipedia, Boston Consulting Group, or BCG, is an American management consulting firm founded by Bruce Henderson in 1963. The firm is one of the world's three largest strategy consulting firms by revenue. In 2019, it earned $8.5 billion and became a top 10 on 100 best companies to work for. However, a couple of years ago, BCG had some issues about communication style among its male and female employees. Therefore, we offer some answer for that case. The presentation will be continued by Christopher. Sorry, Top, you are mute.
Sorry. So the first question is, what are some other situations where having a stereotype male and female communication style may be advantage? Basically, there is no best communication style for all business interaction, but usually women have the edge on collaborative environments because they have a good listening skills, inclusive body language, and good empathy. But on the other hand, male has the edge on situation or environment that requires decisiveness because men are more likely to take control and have a direct and to the point communication. I'm going to explain more briefly about male and female communication stereotype. Basically, each gender has its own strength, which can be used to the benefit of the company. Based on the model of freedom by Min Chaucer, you can see that he described the male gender role as the blue pattern and the pink pattern based on the graph. Men are relatively more action-oriented and task-oriented than women, and women are more likely process-oriented and role-oriented than men. But the truth is, we are not born with this bias, but we learn the type of behavior which fits our gender role, the roles that make it comfortable to use, and which determine our preferred communication style. All these orientation have their own strength, and if used wisely and strategically, can bring benefit to the company. So to collaborate this orientation, we must know their strengths and weaknesses. For as you can see, in action-oriented, the advantage is decisive, but the weaknesses, mistakes are made. In process-oriented, the advantage are women are more likely to analyze and begin a discussion before doing something important. But the weakness is it's relatively slow on decision making. So by exploring both the strength of the orientation, it might help to overcome the weaknesses of both. We can see that the strength of action-oriented emphasize the weakness of the slow decision making on process orientation, and the strength of process-oriented emphasize the mistakes that are made in action-oriented. Sometimes it will be more important to make a fast decision than to make the best one. For example, if I just graduated from a university and after doing many job interviews, I received three equal job offers. I don't have much time because I need to decide quickly, but I also want to make sure that I choose the right job by comparing all the job criteria. But I realized I do not have the time to gather every detail of information to carry such an analysis. So to overcome this, I just choose a small handful of criteria that are most important to me and take the risk. But in other situations, it will be also important to be flawless and taking more time to analyze a better decision. For example, when a new type of phone are entering the market, it is better to have a good discussion and analysis to to avoid any error when the phones are entering the market and distributed to the hand of the customer. So it helps the company to be aware of each advantage in order to avoid a win-lose discussion and achieve win-win discussion and see how both of the advantage can be used depending on the situation and task. So the next question will be answered by Stephanie.
Okay, for the next question, how might male and female communication style differ across culture? So, based on the data that we found, every country have a different style of communication, male and female, depend on the cultural context. Uh, Based on the data from Edward T. Hall, countries like Europe and America use a low context culture, which is mean that they open with the gender differ. And from the survey by uh, Giorgio Bilkov in 2009, uh, women they feel least likely to feel that women invade their personal space uh, rather than the country, and they don't mind if they use a body language. And also, there's is different with the countries in China, Indonesia, and Korea, which just mean use a high context culture. They likely to use a body language, especially for a woman, and they feel most likely feel that women invade their personal space. And we move. And here we can see there's two charts. The right chart is the need for eye contact in normal situation. We can see that female is more higher rather than male. But in the left chart, we can see that depend on the ethnic difference to need for eye contact. Male is more higher rather than female. So the need for eye contact or body language in every country is different. It's depend on the culture and or a cultural context. Next presentation will be presented by Putri. Sorry, Put, you still mute.
Okay, thank you. So the last question is, do you feel like your communication style correspond with your gender? Why or why not? I believe that I have a strong sense of both communication style and each dominant one will present itself when appropriate. Although I know the fact that male and female have different perspective in many aspects. In communication style, the biggest difference between them is the fact that male and female perceive conversation goals differently. Sometimes communicating things conveyed by male can be interpreted differently by female and vice versa. I am a great listener, empathic, quite dominant, And I'm also a precise decision maker, but not that quick to make those decisions. Because I need to consider many things and always want to look at various sides, both subjective and objective. I don't feel my gender has limited me to one communication style. I consider a communication as a tool to improve social relation and goals oriented toward equality. When a conversation is going to be an argument, I could say what I feel straight away, but there will be a moment when I seem to be agree with or are reluctant to criticize others. Mm, However, I was also raised to to use a clear its communication style and encouraged to utilize any style that I seem suitable. Now we move to the conclusion.
Okay, for the conclusion of our presentation is each communication style have their own advantage based on the task and situation, and if both of them are wisely, it can help the effectiveness of the company. The communication style between male and female are different in every country. It is depend on the cultural context. Either male or female communication style will present the dominant one itself appropriate and does not have limit by gender. So, okay, that's all from our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening and have a nice day.
Thank you.